If you clicked on this video, then you're probably wanting to know how to create these insane and popular car videos. Well, in this tutorial, I'm going to be going over 5 steps in order to replicate these videos. Now I'm going to be using just After Effects for this tutorial. I know a lot of people like to switch from Premiere to After Effects, but honestly a lot of these car videos are purely just edited in After Effects, and that's just kind of how I like to work also. So hopefully by the end of this video you'll get a better understanding on how to use After Effects and how to put together a full video just using After Effects. Now before we get started with the steps, I'm just going to go here and create a new composition, and we can name this whatever we want. And for our aspect ratio here, there's a few different ones I like to use. The one I'm using right now is 1080 by 1350, and this is a 4:5 aspect ratio. But another really common one is 1080 by 1920, and this is a 9:16 aspect ratio, and this is what's commonly used for Instagram and stuff. So you guys can kind of mess around with your composition settings and kind of see what works best for your videos. But for now, I'm just going to stick with 1080 by 1350, and I like to keep the frame rate at 30 because that's what's used on most of the social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram. But once you have that, you can just hit OK, and you can see your new composition is made. Now the first step in creating an edit is actually the music, and to be honest, music is actually one of the most important steps in creating an edit. And when I make my edits, finding music can sometimes even be the most time-consuming part of an edit, although sometimes I'll get lucky and find a song pretty fast, or I'll have a song already in mind for the edit, but usually it will take like an hour or so just to find a good song to use. And I'm not sure if this is just me that does this every time, but if you guys can relate, then leave a comment down below. But once you found your music, you just want to download it and import it into After Effects, and then obviously just drag it into your timeline. Now when I find a song, I like to use a song that has some pretty good like bass to it, or different moments where I can kind of cut the video to. So as you can see in the audio, there's those different peaks of like the bass or whatever. I'm not really an audio genius, but I guess whenever that bass like hits, you can see the audio peak right here. So on those different moments is usually when I like to cut the video to or sync the video to. So what I like to do is actually mark those moments, so when I'm editing the video later, I can just go to those markers and easily cut the video to them. And to get to the waveform view, you just want to hit LL on your keyboard twice, and then you'll see these waveforms here. This kind of helps visualize the different audio waveforms. So I'm just going to go through here and mark different moments where the audio kind of peaks up. You can also listen to it, but this is kind of just a fast way to, I guess, go through it. And also, if you don't know how to add markers, it's just that star button on the number pad. But if you don't have that, then you can just right click and then hit markers and add marker, and that's just a simple way to add a marker also. But I recommend setting a keybind to it so you can kind of go through it and just click it. But yeah, once you have all your markers set up, then you're pretty much ready for the next step. Now once you have your music imported and you've set all the markers to the key beats, you then need to import in all your footage. But as you can see, I already have my clips here, and I just pre-composed them to make it pretty simple and easy to understand in this tutorial. But once it's imported in, I like to look through the clips and kind of see what I'm working with. And once I find something that I think works, I just like to drag it into the timeline here, and then I like to line it up with those markers here. And I basically just do that for all the footage here. I just drag it in and kind of adjust it to line up with these markers. And I basically just make a pretty rough cut of the clips and how they align together. And this is a pretty simple process because you're basically just dragging in the footage and kind of lining it up with the audio here. So I just went through and laid out all my clips, and I'm just going to play this back so you can kind of see what it looks like. So as you can see, it's super rough. There's no like timer maps or anything. It's just literally the cuts to the audio, which is going to help a lot with the rest of the edit, because if your video is off sync and it's just not cutting to the audio like this, it just ruins the whole flow. And that's kind of what makes an edit good or bad, honestly, is having flow and kind of cutting to the audio. And if your video isn't feeling right, then it's probably because of that, and your audio is just not synced with your video clips. So yeah, just make sure you have your video clips synced to the audio, because it just helps your edit flow and just feel more consistent overall. Now, almost all of these popular edits will have some type of speed ramping, whether it's like super fast speed ramping or it's pretty subtle. But honestly, almost every single one has some type of speed ramping. So that's what I'm going to be covering in this step right here. And speed ramping may look complicated at first, but it's actually pretty simple to do in After Effects. And I also have a more detailed video on how to speed ramp. So if you want to check that out, it'll be on the top right of the screen right now, and you can click and watch it. But I'm just going to go through it pretty fast here and kind of show you the basics of it. So first off, you just want to go ahead and hit Control-Alt-T to enable timer mapping. And if you don't have that shortcut, then you can always just right click your footage and go to time and enable timer mapping. Now we just want to set a keyframe at the start of our clip and also at the end. But as you can see, we already have a keyframe at the start. But if you didn't have one, you would just have to go over here and just add a keyframe. And then same thing at the end here. Let's just go ahead and add a keyframe there. Now with both of those keyframes, you just want to select them and then you just want to easy ease them. I'm going to hit F9 to easy ease them, or you can right click it, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease. Then you want to have the timer map selected and go into the graph editor. And this is kind of where things get, I guess, a little bit more complicated because not many people work with a graph inside of an editor. So if you're new to this, then it might be a little bit confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple to understand. So what I just did is moved these points up and down like this, so you get this line where it speeds up and then kind of slows down and speeds back up again, and that's how you get this speed ramp effect. And the more bend you have in this graph here will make the video faster. So if you have something more subtle like this, you won't really notice the speed ramp here. So I kind of like to have something around here. And if your video looks a bit choppy because of that speed ramp, you just want to enable this frame blending here. And if you don't see it like right here and it's not like an actual feature to enable, maybe because your footage is pre-composed like mine, so I just had to go in here and then just enable it. And you want to click it twice till you see this arrow with the dots like that. And you also want to make sure that it's enabled for your timeline here. So just click this so it's blue. Now with that, we just want to copy those steps and apply it to these other video clips here. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that to the rest of the footage. Alright, so I just got done speed ramping all of my clips here. So I'm going to play it back really quick so you guys can see what I have. Now honestly, just with the speed ramping alone, it makes it look so much better. So speed ramping is also a very important step in creating these edits. And you may have seen how I had the speed ramping reverse here. And if you're wondering how I did that, I just set a keyframe in the middle here. So instead of having just 2, I set 3. And if you did that, the graph would probably look something like this. And what I did is I took this middle point here and I extended these points so it would almost touch down to the bottom here. So it speeds up and then goes all the way back and it goes up again. And it's honestly kind of hard to explain how exactly a graph works, so you kind of just have to mess around with it and kind of get a feel for how things work. Hopefully that kind of helps you understand how to create this like rewind effect and the speed ramping here. Now this step is kind of the fun step because we get to go ahead and apply effects and kind of mess around with different effects inside of After Effects. And adding effects is a great way to actually help make your video stand out from others. I'm not going to go too in depth on all the effects I'm going to add to this video just because it's going to take way too long, and I already have tons of tutorials on my YouTube on how to create different effects. So if you want to see how to create different effects, then obviously go ahead and check out those videos on my YouTube. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and add the effects to this video now, and I'll see you guys once I'm done with that. Alright, so I have now finished adding all of the effects to my edit, and I'll play it right now so you guys can go ahead and watch it. Now it definitely isn't the best thing ever because I think I did this in under an hour, so I kind of just added some random effects here and there, and then the main thing was just some shakes and different transitions to kind of help bring the edit together. But honestly, a lot of the effects I've done here are kind of effects I've covered in my previous tutorials, like this one here. So yeah, nothing too crazy, but overall, I think the edit looks pretty good. A super common effect that's used in most of these edits are actually shakes. So what I did is I went through and on most of these like markers here that we marked earlier for the audio is where I have a shake applied. So I just went ahead and created an adjustment layer, and then I went into my effects and presets and then just used my shake presets here. And yeah, I just went ahead and applied them to pretty much all of the different like transitions. So if you do want to go ahead and download these shake presets, I'll have them linked down in the description below, as well as a full tutorial on how to download them and use them. But yeah, once you have your effects, you're pretty much ready for the next step. Now lastly, once I'm done with all of the effects, I like to add in a color grade. So I'm just going to go ahead and add an adjustment layer, and let's go ahead and add in a LUT here. All right, so I just went ahead and imported in a LUT, and then I brought the opacity down to 45% here, just so it's not like super strong. And then yeah, so you can see it before and after here. And if you want, you can add a lumetri color to kind of mess with a little bit more of the colors here. So like the contrast, you can bump that up if you want. I like to lower the highlights down a bit, bring up some of the shadows, and then bring down the blacks just a bit. And then I also like to add a vignette. So let's just bring this vignette amount down to like -2. So now it just adds like a little subtle vignette to the edges. Now, once I'm totally done with the edit and I have all my effects and everything and my color grade is applied, I'll sometimes add in sound effects. Now this is kind of up to you if you want to to add sound effects to your edit or not. I'm just going to go ahead and go through this edit and add a few different sound effects so you guys can hear what it sounds like with them and without. So I'll see you guys once I'm done with that. All right, so I just finished adding sound effects to this edit here. As you can see, all of these yellow layers are the sound effects that I added. So I'll go ahead and play this back so you guys can give it a listen. So as you can see, sound effects can actually make a pretty big difference to your edit, and it honestly just helps bring everything together. So I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to go ahead and mess with any sound effects in your edits. If you want to use any of the sound effects that I used in this edit, I'll have them linked down in the description below where you can go ahead and download them. But yeah, those are pretty much the 5 steps in order to create these car videos. Hopefully this video was helpful for you guys understanding After Effects a bit more. And if you guys were a total beginner, hopefully you guys actually know how to kind of compile your videos, because obviously just looking at this timeline now, it can be pretty confusing and like overwhelming, but kind of breaking it down step by step is pretty helpful when you're kind of learning a new program. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. And if you did create something that's cool and you wanted to share it to Instagram, feel free to tag me or share the video with me on Instagram so I can check out your guys' edits. But that's going to be pretty much it for this video. And if you guys did enjoy it, then make sure to drop a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.